What the heck is up, everybody? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast here on YouTube. I am your host, Andy Herman. You can always follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. And if you have not yet, please do me a huge favor and subscribe down below to the YouTube channel. Helps me out greatly, and I appreciate it more than you know. So thanks so much for taking the 5 seconds to subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Let's kind of go into some Packers news and notes before I get to my main topic today. There were a few moves that were made. 3 IR moves that we were basically expecting going into the day on Wednesday did ultimately get made, and that includes Billy Winn, Raven Green, and Tyler Ervin all going on IR. Now, again, I'm sure all of you know this by now, but that does not mean they are out for the season like it did in years past. This means that they are out for a minimum of 3 weeks and then can be reevaluated. Then they basically have like a 3-week practice window and can be activated anywhere within that. So they have certainly some time to get back on the field if they are able to do so. It does sound like, the hope is that Billy Winn will be able to return at some point this season. Tyler Ervin might be fighting between now and the playoffs, but the hope there is, and at least it sounds like he has some opportunity to come back before year end as well. We have not heard anything definitive on Raven Green, so hopefully that doesn't mean bad news, but at this point we just don't know enough to make an educated assumption on anything. But again, hopefully Raven Green is able to play at some point this season, but right now all 3 of those players have gone on IR. Green Bay did make one corresponding move, and I'm a little bit excited about it, to be honest. Simon Stepaniak gets activated from the NFL injured list to the active roster, and if you remember, Simon Stepaniak was one of the 3 offensive linemen that they took in the 6th round of the draft, John Runyon being one of those, and then Jake Hansen, who is on the practice squad. He might still be on the injured list on the practice squad. I'd have to go back and look. He's either on the practice squad or practice squad injured list, but he resides in the practice squad realm in some capacity. And then Simon Stepaniak, who would have, remember, been drafted earlier. A lot of, draft pundits would, basically went on a limb and said, hey, this guy would have went a lot sooner had he not been injured. Now, I'm not saying he would have been like a 2nd round, 3rd round pick or anything like that, but maybe late 4th, early 5th round pick for Simon Stepaniak had he been healthy. Green Bay gets him in the mid to late 6th because the thought was that this would probably be a redshirt season for Simon Stepaniak, where he might not be able to play at all. You might not get him until the following year. And then what does that do to his progression and things like that? But the fact that he's already made it back to the active roster at this point, with 4 games to go in the regular season, hopefully at least 3 more with a 1st round bye included in there. This gives Simon Stepaniak obviously a lot of practice time. It gives him, the ability to be active on game days. And remember, when I asked Matt LaFleur about Simon Stepaniak a couple weeks ago, he had a lot of high praise for Stepaniak and how he's kind of handled himself during the injury process, getting back acclimated to the team. And so it's really a positive to see that he was activated, that he's on the 53, and that, if nothing else, he's ahead of schedule. This means that he's going to come in next year healthy, ready to compete for a spot. And, Green Bay didn't have to activate him. For instance, Jake Hansen, who was healthy in the, training camp and preseason, they cut him outright at the beginning of the year. So this isn't something that they had to do. It's a 6th round pick. It's not like they're, pot committed to keeping Simon Stepaniak at this point. The fact that they liked him enough to put him on the active roster at this point is a really solid sign. The odds that he gets in the game, I guess, with all the injuries to the offensive line this year, who the hell knows? But the odds are hopefully not that great that he would actually get into a game. Maybe he gets in as like a, on the, field goal block team, something like that. But he's going to be buried down a little bit. He's probably going to be behind, Rick Wagner, John Runyon, if everyone's healthy. And then as well as, probably even like a Yash Nijman at that point. They still could activate Ben Braden from time to time. And I could even see him being active above Stepaniak in certain situations. But still love to see that he is active and back on the roster in the first place at this point. And I do think that he down the line has the ability to be a big, imposing physical guard. That's what he's kind of known for. And I think this is somebody that's going to be able to compete not only for a roster spot, but down the line, a couple years from now, maybe a starting spot along that offensive line. So great to see there. Updated injury reports as well. Some players for both teams that did not practice. Kenny Golladay and Jeff Okudah were the main 2 for the Detroit Lions. Those will definitely be worth keeping an eye on this week as we continue to get injury updates. And then for the Packers, Equinemius St. Brown and Jay Sternberger were the 2 that did not practice. Again, anyone that's on IR, of course, was not practicing. A.J. Dillon was seen at practice, running around, doing some stuff, but still not activated from the COVID list. So that's another player who they're trying to get, seems to be trying to get reacclimated and hopefully back on the roster sooner rather than later, and get him back acclimated with the team. One other note on the injury list, and I mentioned this on here, I believe it was Monday, but I could be wrong on that. But Josh Jackson was in what seemed to be a healthy scratch this past week. And at the time, it was tough to tell. Remember, on Friday, he practiced in full, did not have an injury designation. There was no injury update for him on Saturday. And then Sunday, he was inactive. And basically, it meant one of two things. It meant that he was either a healthy scratch or it meant that he had some sort of setback. So I was kind of waiting to see, first days back at practice, what was it like? Well, Wednesday comes along and he was practicing in full. He was not listed on the injury list whatsoever. His name wasn't even on it. So, it seems to be that Josh Jackson was a healthy scratch behind Kadar Hallman, who played in the game this last week. So that's kind of an interesting development to keep an eye on. A lot of high hopes still for Josh Jackson that he was going to be able to maybe be a breakthrough player. The talent is there. Hasn't always put it on the field. He's one of my lowest rated players on the season this year. And on the defensive side of the ball, I believe he's third lowest behind Preston Smith and Dean Lowry on the list. I'll have to double check that. Don't quote me on it, but I believe he's the third lowest graded player for me this season on defense. So you want to see more from Josh Jackson. We saw flashes even this season of what he can do. It wasn't bad, but certainly still some improvement and not a great sign if in fact he was a healthy scratch this past Sunday. We'll see if he's activated this week, and maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe he gets in ahead of Kadar Hallman this week, but I think it's at least noteworthy going back. All right, that gets me to my main topic for today. Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers, the MVP debate. And everyone loves discussing these things. And it's good conjecture, and it's good to talk about on YouTube and on radio shows. Ultimately, let's be real here. We are, splitting hairs. It's 6-1, half a dozen to the other. And you could make arguments either way. If you are interested in the Vegas betting odds, Vegas is heavily in favor of Patrick Mahomes at the moment. I believe last I checked, he was like -400 to win it, and I think Rodgers was about +400 to win it. So if you're feeling pretty confident, I'm not even going to get into it because I'm not going to, pretend that this is gambling advice because that's a bad idea to trust me with anything for gambling advice. But right now in Vegas, Patrick Mahomes is a heavy favorite still to win the MVP award. Aaron Rodgers is in second. But let's take a look at some of the statistics and analytics of both players to see which one should be mainly in the conversation as the front runner for the MVP conversation. Some of these, don't mean a ton. Others will, and again, your mileage may vary on which one of these statistics maybe means a little bit more to you. But let's go kind of through them one by one. Let's take a look at record first, and this is not going to get into wins and losses or a quarterback stat. I'm not saying they are. It just may be an ancillary statistic that is worth noting here. So Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are 9-3. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs 11-1. Completion percentage, a slight nod to Aaron Rodgers, 68.9% for Rodgers, 68.3% for Patrick Mahomes. So very, very similar. It's a very slight edge to Aaron Rodgers. Yards is one of the few that it goes really strongly one way or the other. Patrick Mahomes has about 400 more yards than Aaron Rodgers does, which is somewhat noteworthy. So 3,395 yards for Rodgers, 3,815 yards for Patrick Mahomes. Touchdowns, a 4-touchdown lead for Aaron Rodgers, 37 throwing touchdowns for Rodgers, 33 for Patty Mahomes. Interceptions, it seems insane that anyone would have fewer interceptions than Aaron Rodgers, but Patty Mahomes is that level of insane. Patty Mahomes has 2 interceptions, 4 for Aaron Rodgers. QBR, that's not the quarterback rating, but like the advanced QBR that ESPN put out. Patty Mahomes, 85.8. Aaron Rodgers, 84.6. So a slight lead for Patrick Mahomes in that. How about Pro Football Focus? How do they rate each quarterback? Aaron Rodgers, number 1 on their list. Patrick Mahomes, number 2. Passer rating, if you're going by the old passer rating metric, Aaron Rodgers is ahead of Patrick Mahomes, 118.5 to 113.8. So interesting there. EPA, expected points added. So this is kind of like your advanced analytic type stuff of who adds more, the kind of wins over replacement or wins above replacement. Not exactly, but who has more expected points added on the season. Aaron Rodgers, number 1 on the list. Patrick Mahomes, number 2. How How about drop percentage? Which quarterback is maybe done in by some drops? This will not surprise you. Aaron Rodgers has the second highest drop rate by his receivers in the NFL, a 6.8% drop rate. Patrick Mahomes is down at 19th with a 4.7% drop rate, which means Rodgers would have much more, more completed passes, more yards, potentially more touchdowns if he had the same drop rate that Patrick Mahomes did. How about poor throws? Pro Football Reference has Aaron Rodgers down for 58 poor throws this season. Patrick Mahomes, 76. So Aaron Rodgers has been more accurate in that regards. How about on-target throws? This is, I guess, kind of the opposite of the last one to some extent, but Aaron Rodgers, 80.3% of his throws are on target. Patrick Mahomes, 79%, so a slight edge to Rodgers there. How about pressure percentage? Which one of these has to deal with more pressure? Patrick Mahomes is significantly more pressured than Aaron Rodgers, which means he's got to maybe make things happen a little bit more on his own. He's pressured on 19.8% of plays. Rodgers only 13.8% of plays. So he is 6% less likely to be pressured on a play than Patrick Mahomes, which means, again, Mahomes probably has to make things happen a little bit more often. How about Alex scores? Now, Alex scores may not mean a ton to you. Basically, it's if you're 3rd and 8 and you throw a 2-yard pass, it's a -6 points on the Alex rating. If it's a 3rd and 6 and you throw a 12-yard pass, you're a +6, assuming it's completed. So Rodgers is actually number 1 in the league in Alex rating. Patrick Mahomes, 12th, which means that Rodgers is pushing it downfield past the first down marker more often and trying to be a bit more aggressive in that regards. Patrick Mahomes may be taking what's there a little bit more. DVOA, I know everyone's favorite statistic. Patrick Mahomes is first in their quarterback DVOA, and Aaron Rodgers actually comes in second on that list. Mahomes is about 4.6% ahead of Rodgers in that regard. So those are the main statistics. Let's look at maybe some of the players that surround each of them. So at running back, and let's go Pro Football Focus ratings here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their 23rd rated running back. Aaron Jones, the 16th rated running back. So Rodgers has a little bit better of a running back. How about tight ends? Robert Tonyan, 22nd rated tight end in the NFL. Travis Kelce, number 1 overall. So Patrick Mahomes has a significantly better tight end to use. What about wide receiver? Devontae Adams, number 1. Tyreek Hill, number 9. If you kind of add those up, it would show that at least running back, tight end, wide receiver, the best at each position. Patrick Mahomes has a slight advantage in that regards. How about head coach? 2 of the great offensive minds, Andy Reid and Matt LaFleur in the NFL right now. I don't think anyone is, from an offensive mind standpoint, is going to really, challenge Andy Reid at the moment. But Matt LaFleur is not too far off. Both of these quarterbacks get a ton of advantages from the brilliance of both of their offensive minds and how they're able to generate open receivers and just have a really competent scheme around them to find easy throws and make things easy on their quarterbacks. So there you have it. That's all the advanced analytics in different ways that you have to kind of look at this, the general statistics, everything like that. Where do I lean? If I'm a betting man, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to win the MVP. And I don't necessarily know that that's wrong. I think you can make a very, very strong argument for Aaron Rodgers. And if I were leaning one way, if I were a voting member, I'm not so sure that I wouldn't be voting Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a little bit more, overall valuable to the cause on offense. And I just think that what he's done, just taking the throws that are there and really kind of remaking himself, being explosive down the field, not turning the ball over. I know all these things you can say about Patrick Mahomes as well. But again, it's, as I mentioned at the onset, it's half a dozen to one, 6 to the other. And I think you can really make an argument either way. I'll go Aaron Rodgers because why the hell not? Like I said, if I were betting, I'd go Patrick Mahomes. But we'll see what happens. There's 4 games left for both of them to claim their stake. I'd be beyond shocked if it wasn't one of the two, and I'd be beyond shocked at this point, barring something crazy, if it doesn't go 1-2 Mahomes-Rodgers or Rodgers-Mahomes in some capacity. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure to check out Jimmy and Jacob and Maggie on today's Pack a Day podcast. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.